One quarter-final, one semi-final and one final. That is Gareth Southgate's record as the England manager. It looks like Euro 2024 will be his last tournament in charge. So in this video we are going to look at the evolution of Gareth Southgate as the English national team manager. Before he joined the English setup at all, Gareth Southgate was the Middlesbrough manager for 3 years, and unfortunately he took them down and then got dismissed in 2009, and they started with the under-21s in 2013. He succeeded Stuart Pearce as the manager of the 21s on August the 22nd, 2013, and I think this was an interesting time for the under-21s because there was a lot of good players coming through. Sado Berahino, Ravo Morrison, players like that who obviously didn't make it in the top game for England. By the time they were seen as players who go to the very top, and Southgate was at the helm of moulding all these players to take them through. However, he didn't have a fantastic time as the under-21 coach. He would go on to lead them to 2015 Euros. However, they finished bottom of the group and they got knocked out of the competition. So really, he didn't have a lot of credibility behind him after a mediocre career at Middlesbrough and then a disappointing career with the under-21s. However, as we all know, and I personally think this is the lowest point in English modern football history, the Iceland game in 2016. This was the one that knocked us all for six. 2014 World Cup, we were terrible. We got knocked out of the group stage. However, Uruguay, Italy, you can kind of justify that in a way. However, in the Euros, we had a great game against Wales when Daniel Sturridge scored the last goal, and then we got to Iceland, a country who were overachieving massively, and we lost to them. Obviously, Roy Hodgson, I believe he was sacked on that night, and even Southgate at the time said he didn't want to fill the role that Hodgson left. However, after the tournament on the 22nd of July, Sam Allardyce, of all people, signed a 2-year contract with the English team, and I remember spirits were really high at that point. We were like, right, he's not a fantastic manager, but he's going to make us hard to beat, and he might actually try to win things. Sam Allardyce ended up getting himself mutually agreed to leave the role. However, he probably got sacked because he was caught by an undercover journalist from the Telegraph discussing how to get around third-party player fees. He would then join the England camp on the 27th of September 2016. Gareth Southgate, he went back on his decision, and I think he realised it was such a big opportunity that it couldn't turn down. We had a good start on the Southgate. We beat Malta and Scotland, and we drew Slovenia and Spain. And then in the November of that year, he signed a 4-year contract after being the interim manager, and he became the permanent national team manager. And after we qualified for the World Cup in Russia in 2018, the FA even said, which just shows the state the country was at the time, that even if we didn't get past the group stage, Southgate would stay on as the manager because their expectations were quote-unquote realistic. So just to catch this point, it's interesting because was Southgate there at the right time? If he was in 2006 or 2009, just before the South Africa World Cup, would have he had the same time as the England manager? Because I think at that time the expectation was through the floor, so really any success would have been seen as a positive. The best thing that Southgate did at the start was change the PR around the English national team because it had been such a big disconnect for years. I mean, me growing up in the 2000s, it was celebrity culture gone massive. It was David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, Ashley Cole and Cheryl Cole, and it was just, they felt like complete different universes to you. Whereas I think what Southgate did, he tried to bring in the England team more as a whole with the country, and it's even stuff like posting those pictures of, I think, Harry Maguire and John Stones on the inflatable unicorns in the pool, put on Twitter, or the Jay Lings thing, the celebration that was going around. And even, and I know Gareth Southgate didn't do this, but the Atomic Kitten song with the Southgate You're the One, it all came at the right time because it built the country into a togetherness during that Russian World Cup. And it was a great time because players from the golden generation were getting pushed out. Wayne Rooney didn't go to that tournament even though he went to 2016. And players like Dele Alli were on the front stage, Marcus Rashford. And it also really helped that we had a really easy run in. We had Panama in the group, we had Tunisia in the group, we had Belgium, who we actually lost to, and then what, Colombia, Sweden, and then we faced Croatia. But although this was such a fun summer, as so many people, 2018 in England was fantastic in the summer. It also was the start of the Southgate Out Parade because we had such an easy run. I think people are going, well, why aren't we going to the final? People might call it the success going to the fans' heads. However, we all looked at it. We had a fantastic team at the time, and the only 2 teams that we lost to were teams that we could have lost to. The other teams were, it would have been a huge upset if we did. And unfortunately against Croatia, Kieran Trippier scored, Harry Kane missed that massive chance, and we lost 2-1 when Croatia went to play France at the final and then lost to France. I can see both sides because it's the closest we got to a major tournament final since Euro 96. However, we also look at it, it was the easiest running you could possibly ever get in a World Cup, and we don't have many chances like that. Then in 2019, Southgate was awarded OBE, and also the Nations League happened. The Nations League was a new creation by UEFA. In my opinion, it's a glorified friendly. I don't know why anyone cares about it, and I think it's another way for UEFA to make money. But in that, England lost to the Netherlands in the semi-final and came third after beating Switzerland. However, this is another thing where people go, well, why didn't he win it? In my opinion, this is one of the worst arguments to say Southgate should have been sacked at that time. And then this took us to 2020 when COVID happened, and I think one of the best things Southgate did at that time was take a 30% pay cut. Of course, a lot of it will be for publicity. However, he didn't have to do it at the end of the day. And it showed that he was with solidarity with the rest of the nation who, might be losing their jobs, might be on furlough, and were all in lockdown at the time. And it'll be a constant theme throughout this video. You can argue Southgate's tactics and everything, but I think you can't really argue with his character as a person. But then, I think it's the Wild West happened, didn't it? In 2021, which was Euro 2020, everyone was let out. It was like loads of caged animals being unleashed. And we all went to the pub, we all went mad, we all watched all the England games. And again, it felt like a similar summer to 2018. It was cracking weather all summer. And again, I think we had a better team than 2018. So we were all hopeful that we were maybe even going to win the tournament. But then we started fairly poorly, if you remember it. We scored 2 goals in the group stage. We didn't concede any, and that was a constant theme throughout the tournament. We barely conceded a goal. However, we just couldn't seem to score, and we were all scratching our heads going, well, we've got the best striker in the world, Harry Kane, and we've got some of the best young attackers in the world backing him up, but we can't put the ball in the net, which I think unfortunately added to the frustration, and I think a lot of people were turned on Southgate even more than they did in 2018. Then we played Germany, beat them 2-0 at Wembley, which was a very iconic game. It was a lesser Germany side if we want to be a bit boring about it. However, it was a brilliant game to watch. And then we played Ukraine, beat them 4-0. That was a dominant performance, very attacking. And then we played Denmark, which I think we all lost about 5 or 10 years of our life in that Denmark game, because when Damsgaard scored, we all just thought, oh, here we go again, we're bottling it against a lesser team. But then somehow we found a way to get through. There were elements that we were lucky in that game, however, we got through to the final against the Italians. And this is maybe the biggest blemish on Southgate's record so far. The Italians looked brilliant in that tournament. They had Chiesa, who was fantastic, Spinazzola on the left. There were so many talented players in that Italian team, and with Mancini managing them, we were worried about them at the time, and they probably looked the most dynamic team in that tournament. However, in the first, 5 minutes, Luke Shaw scored that goal, and we all thought England were going to win the Euros that year. But what does Southgate do with a brilliant team, with such an attacking, loaded team? He sat back against the Italians for the rest of the game, and he just invited them on us. And I really think this did show Southgate's naivety as a coach, because he can't just rely on sitting back against these teams. When you've got brilliant footballers in your midfield and attack, you have to attack these teams. You have to act like you're better than them, because in that game, we did not feel like we were better than the Italians. They came out in the second half and they looked like they wanted to win. We looked like we wanted not to lose. We defended well, and it took us to extra time and penalties. And again, Southgate did not help himself, because he brought on Sancho and Rashford to take penalties, but he brought them on at the back end of extra time, which I don't care what you say about people who have penalty takers in the squad, they train all week for it. If you are coming on in 120 minutes in extra time at Wembley, you can't expect, especially young players, to just come on with no warming up to then take a penalty in front of, 80,000 people. It's not going to happen. His public reception just went down after that. It was the whole Jack Grealish thing beforehand. Grealish was maybe one of the best players in the Premier League before the Euros. He was carrying Aston Villa to a Europe charge before he got injured. It didn't feel like he was even going to go, and I think at the last minute, Grealish went to the Euros. Because then we fast forward to the next summer, where we've got a World Cup in the winter, and we're playing in the Nations League again, which, again, I don't care about, but we lost to Italy in that. And I think that was one of the moments where people lost their minds. But I think some people really did believe that. We needed a better manager, and it was shouts for Jose Mourinho, obviously Eddie Howe, Graham Potter was always in the mix. But it did feel like the FA were just sticking with Southgate, and fair play to them, because he took us to the World Cup. And in my opinion, this is the best I've seen England play. Maybe in my entire life. I think England were excellent in this World Cup. People have very short memories, but we played Iran and we smashed Iran. That first game, We look so dominant, we look so attacking. He changed us from a 3-back with wing backs to their 4-back formation. We struggled with America, which again made everyone lose their minds, but then we beat Wales fairly comfortably, which took us straight through to the round of 16, and we played Senegal. We forget Senegal, they're coming off an AFCON win at the start of the year. Yes, I believe Sadio Mane was injured at the time. However, they still have a stacked squad, and I thought we made them look terrible. I thought we were fantastic that day. And what I think the problem was is because this tournament was in the winter, obviously, in November and December. If this was in the summer, the sunshine, everyone's at the pubs, the feeling would have been a lot more with this attacking football. Everyone's at home in the winter, freezing, drinking mulled wine, watching the football. You're never going to get the kind of community spirit that you would do if it was in June or July. And then unfortunately took us to the France game. We did not want to play the French at all. They were clearly the best team on paper in that tournament. I thought we gave them a really good going, and I thought we lost just to the better team on the day. One screamer by Tchouaméni and one lapse of concentration by Harry Maguire to let Giroud score, and also one insane penalty miss by the best penalty taker in the world, Harry Kane. I came away from 2022 feeling quite hopeful about the England team again. My feeling had gone down a bit after 2021. In the World Cup, I thought we were excellent. There were more promising players on the scene, like I think Bellingham, obviously. I think Rice was excellent in that tournament. And this takes us to the Euros. It's a tough one because it's going to be a hit against Southgate, because I think the England team has just only got better. Phil Foden's just won Player of the Season in an insane Premier League talent pool. Jude Bellingham being maybe the second best player in La Liga. Harry Kane being the best player in the Bundesliga. People, and somewhat rightly so, are just going to get frustrated without even anything happening. We're just thinking, Southgate's going to mess this all up. He's not going to be able to utilise these players properly. And obviously when you've got players like Cole Palmer coming through, burst onto the scene, Anthony Gordon having a fantastic season at Newcastle, it feels like, and we've said this for the last few tournaments, it really does feel like this is maybe the best, in terms of depth-wise, England squad maybe we've ever had, especially in the modern era. And unfortunately, or people might think fortunately, this will be Southgate's last tournament for England, which could be either fantastic for his legacy or terrible, because unfortunately, the way things go, people will probably judge him on his last major tournament. And if we get bounced out in the group stage, a lot will be erased from people's minds over the last 6-7 years. But if we win the tournament, he is going to be seen as an absolute god. And if Gareth Southgate's watching, and I know he's probably one of the 200 people that are going to watch this video, I mean, he's done a great job, hasn't he, really? And I think history will look very favourably upon both his views as England manager and also his performance as a coach. He's brought back a good feeling around the England side. It used to be horrible, especially in the 2010s, to be an England fan. You didn't want to watch any friendlies. I mean, they sell out Wembley now for friendlies. They used to get about 50 or 60,000 people in the 2010s watching the England team, and I think he's got it back to where it should be, and it should be that you want to see your national team play. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of Southgate's tenure as England coach. Let me know if you're Southgate in, Southgate out. If you don't like, if you do, if you think he's been a good manager. You can't argue with some of the results. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you could leave a comment and a like, that'd be great. If you could subscribe, that'd really help me out. And thanks for watching.